I wanted to expose a little more. I told you earlier in an earlier video, the coronavirus, a wake-up call to humanity, about being duct taped to a chair and having rags stuffed down my throat with cleaning solvents, acetone, things like that, for opening my mouth about coronavirus. I want to touch base on what went on before that came to light. So, approximately, 12 years ago, maybe I'd say, roughly, our investigation, how I told you how we went and investigated the room the terrorists stayed in on Fort Lauderdale. As soon as it was released by the FBI, me and two other people went into the room and did our own thing. Immediately, we were the first people to rent the room. That investigation, the financing for the 9/11 events, traced us back to Joseph Robbio, and at the time, he was living in West Warwick, but on Narragansett Boulevard here in Rhode Island, in Cranston, he had a house that was originally raided by the Secret Service. He was caught making counterfeit checks, and the Secret Service kicked in the door, raided the residence, and took him and put him in prison. I mean, he was a counterfeiter, a fraudster, pyramid scheme, Ponzi scheme, scumbag, Bernie Madoff wannabe. Essentially, the house next door, he had the accountant that was handling the books. Now, I'll get into the details more. Essentially, the scam that they were presently running, which this came out in the course of the investigation of Mr. Robbio, was that they were running a big dental scam ring. And you can Google this and look it up. The information's real. I should be screenshotting information and showing you things, but I just want to get the information out there. At the time of the investigation, they had been charged and alleged in 13 separate states and on the run from hiding here, being protected by dirty cops within the state of Rhode Island and West Warwick, and a house he had a marijuana grow operation going on in. Essentially, when he went to prison for, now this is Joseph Robbio, when he went to prison, he was living in Tampa, Florida as the alias residence, where he was making people think that he was living, but he was really in West Warwick, Rhode Island. Now they're in the Carolinas, I believe. The principle behind what I'm saying, though, is when the Secret Service arrested this individual, Mr. Robbio, initially, he went to prison and he met up with a dentist from Connecticut, who I believe had ties to MK Ultra and other bullshit, commie fucking experiments. And he basically groomed Mr. Robbio to set up a massive dental fraud ring across the country. What had happened now is our prison system has, instead of teaching people like the Norwegian system, or a system that actually rehabilitates people and teaches them to go to work and make an honest living, we've created a system which warehouses and tortures people and basically dehumanizes them and essentially gives them a criminal college where they can meet up with other scumbags and come up with bigger and grander schemes while thinking of ways to outsmart the system and the investigators out there trying to take and bring these people to justice. I'm a firm believer in the Norwegian system, where your sentence itself is punishment enough. You're being depraved of your family, your loved ones, your children, and actually going and teaching these people to be a valuable, productive member of society by acclimating them to the things their mommy and daddies never taught them, how to have a moral compass, and to live a just life. That's besides the point. So essentially, he met up with this dentist. Let's call him Ken Kniff from Connecticut. I can get the exact name on this piece of work. And he groomed Robbio into setting up a massive multi-state insurance fraud, dental fraud ring. These basically opened up dental offices across the whole eastern seaboard where they put unlicensed dental practitioners to work for them, basically acting like they were completely valid dentists, using Mr. Robbio's counterfeiting ability to produce fake certificates, fake doctorates, fake dental degrees, and then opening up. Now, these are butchers. You're going to somebody who has no formal training, a butcher. I've read testimony after testimony of poor children, little girls and little boys who were brought there for bridge work and other things, where they left and the teeth fell out of their fucking head. Complete butchers that have no clue what they're doing. Unlicensed, untrained people posing as professionals, preying on your insurance company, committing some of the largest scale Medicare and just general run-of-the-mill insurance fraud ever to be perpetrated in the United States. The dentist saw in Robbio a good counterfeiter that he could bring into the loop and use to create fake degrees. Now that was the tip of the iceberg with this crew of fucking momos. They then went on to creating fake identity documents. Now, we're back about 5 or 10 years ago. You heard on the news the buzzword superdelegate. Now, I publicly dismissed it in my circles, but I didn't make videos as to there's no such thing as a superdelegate. These superdelegates are people who are getting 5 driver's licenses fraudulently that hold no authority in the eye of the law. Even the CIA, if you go to work for the CIA, we don't give you all kinds of boogeyman fake papers. There might be something that if you go on a mission somewhere, you might be given a document, but it's given right back. You don't get no fake paperwork that you walk around with. That's shit from movies. It doesn't exist. The CIA doesn't even do this kind of crap. Basically, what these idiots have done is financed themselves through dental and insurance fraud and a fraudulent healthcare system, and then started buying influence with politicians, buying off corrupt cops, whoever they could get their hooks into, blackmail, using all different types of shit, and especially pedophilia. They have a massive pedophile network. A lot of the thing they play on the cops, they'll send a 16-year-old girl up, suck off the cop, take some pictures, boom, done. You had sex with a minor. You're done. But they created an entire system here, making fake IDs and superdelegates who are swaying elections in every state. Rhode Island is a prime example of a state that if you went around as a citizen journalist and stood outside Stop and Shop and polled the people going into Stop and Shop, most of them would tell you that they're conservative Republicans. Yet the state votes Democrat every time. Because there's 500 or 600 people that have 5 or 6 identity documents that vote 5 or 6 times in 5 or 6 different districts that sway the entire election. If you could hear the stories these children who went into these fake dental offices have to say, the pain and suffering of having someone lie and pretend to be a dentist. This is things that go on in back alleys of Brazil. Unlicensed cosmetic surgery type scams. How depraved have you become when you fall prey to this kind of crap? Common sense is all you have to imply here. When we need to start vetting the dentists when we see them, it's that time. You have to think for yourself. If you go to any medical professional, because you assume you're automatically going to be dealing with I vet them. Look them up. Run background checks before you allow anyone to touch your children. How do you know they're not gassing your child and then molesting them and making a sex tape in that back room? I investigated these people personally. The accountant had 2 pedophile sex offenders with outstanding warrants living in the house that the money man was in. John and Roger. John being some British guy, and Roger. They were on the run from Tampa Bay, Florida, where they molested a 5-year-old boy and had a warrant outstanding. This is the kind of people. How do you know John or Roger isn't one of the make-believe dentists that were diddling your kids? I watched this pervert, Roger, while I was monitoring that house. We got them, basically what happened, the Department of Defense sent me, just like they did to go after 9/11, to approach Mr. Robbio because he led back to the same investigation tied to 9/11. They gave me $1,200 to the USAA Federal Savings and Loan Bank to approach Mr. Robbio and buy a red scooter, one of the Chinese jobs, like a Kimco, whatever, one of the fucking weird little scooters. I don't even remember what the name was. But I did. I contacted him. I purchased the scooter. He was dumb enough to bring me into his house where I was able to see a marijuana grow operation and gather intelligence. Now, we knew that they were running mortgage scams, meaning they were taking over like houses that had been foreclosed by the bank and then renting them out to people and just collecting the rent until it blew up in their face. What do they care? If they collect rent for 2 or 3 months, they're making 2 or 3 months worth of rent, and then, oh well, fuck you, you got sucked. But that's not all they were using those houses for. Those houses were also being found to try to lure people who are drug users or with no credibility into these houses so that they could stick a needle in the parents' arm and kidnap the children and make it look like a drug overdose that no one would care about. No one would notice the missing persons. And when I was watching these people, I had to stay up every night, pretend they kept trying to come in the house. But while I was watching, this fucking sick fuck Raja, it was right across the street from the Johnson & Wales dorms. He would put a trench coat on 3 or 4 times a day and with nothing underneath. Like, I've seen him, like, walk across the street with his cock hanging out the whole nine. And he would go into the dorms, wrapped up in this trench coat, and go into the bathrooms and expose himself to the college students. Completely sick fuck. Organized crimes has rules against this kind of stuff. They don't associate with pedophiles. These people are afraid of people who have no protection. These are scumbags. Losers. That don't go on in the mafia. The mafia will fucking put a bullet in your head faster than you can say what if they think you're an even remote liability. Going around exposing your fucking cock to college students, that draws heat. You get popped for that, they're afraid you're going to rat like a fucking bastard. They'll put a bullet in your head. These fucking people are psychopaths. You know how scared I am that those 2 scumbags might have been make-believe dentists? If you're willing to go walk into a dorm room, bathroom, and this were co-ed dorms now, mind you. There's boys and girls going in there. I mean, he might have been a Peter Puffer, fucking, and be in there for the boys. But I'm just saying, in general, it is what the fuck it is. Imagine if that fucking sick fuck, who already had outstanding warrants from Tampa, was pretending to be a dentist and putting people under nitrous and shit. Imagine your son or daughter in that chair getting fucking child molested by these fucking scumbags. I mean, it's completely insane, ludicrous.